pass rush.
Yeah.
Seeing that combo.
Yeah. I think the pass rush is in a really good spot. Everyone's improving and getting better, and I think we've seen some production out of that group. So we're excited. They've been working hard, and we like what we see so far.
When something happens on Thursday, like Abdul's welcome to the NFL moment, what
Yeah.
are you telling him after that happens?
I mean, first of all, it's happened to every great pass rusher. So it has happened to everyone. It's going to happen again, and that's just part of being a great player. It's also a sign of respect, that they're going to allocate somebody to, not run a route and chip him. So, it happens. And my, focus is on the totality of what's going on. He's had a lot of really good plays. That was one bad play. They happen. Move on. Keep it moving.
He didn't seem pleased that it was distributed to the world to take a look at.
No, definitely not. I mean, he's a super competitive person, super competitive player. I mean, that's just how he's wired. So, that was just him being competitive, which is part of what makes him a great player. Again, to me, the whole body of work, he's done a lot of really good things. My focus is on the great plays that he's had, and there's been a lot of them. So keep it there as one bad play and move on.
Is it hard to go work with a 23-year-old and say that's a sign of respect versus because he's gonna get it, right?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, every great pass rusher, if you're getting chipped, that means you're a good player. So you have to expect it. You have to have a plan on how to combat it. And he does, and we do, and he will. I think he understands it. He's hyper aware. He knows what that means. I think he just was frustrated, which is rightfully so.
As a pass rusher, what specifically makes him unique?
I would say he has a combination. All of his traits are at a very good to elite level. Is he 6'5" with 35-inch arms? He's not. He's 6'3", 33 and change. Other than that, his power, his movement, his bend, his twitch, his awareness, his natural feel, all of that physically is at an incredibly high level. So that stands out. But the most important thing that he has that the great ones do is his natural feel for pass rush. I mean, sometimes you're at a stalemate position and you're working a body or you're working an edge move and it's not a clean win and you just got to escape and get off and throw a wrist or duck underneath or pry through a crease, and it's hard to really put a finger on what that is at that time. The great ones can just feel it, and he has that.
Has his presence bolstered the confidence of the pass rush guys?
Yeah, I think so. As a group, he's another great player who's super confident, who's good. So, in nature, that elevates everyone around him, I'd say, for sure. Anytime you add a good player to any mix, it should elevate the people around him, and it has.
Burns talked about talking to Dex and taking pieces from his game. I guess what you've seen from him this summer.
Burns?
Yeah.
Yeah, Burns, he's had one of the most focused, intentional, locked in, and consistent off seasons that I've seen, and that just goes back to we started those conversations in January when our season ended a year ago, and and then the subsequent months after that, just talking through the off season, as a coach and him as a player, just kind of looking at his game 6 years in and where it had been. And from my vantage point, I just look back at the good stuff that he had done, and there's plenty of it, but I also see, or at least I saw at the time, some areas that can improve and just make his game that much better. So we've had a lot of conversations going back to then, and even when he got here in April, we've watched a ton of film and kind of identified those areas and tried our best to identify a roadmap to him having the best season he's had yet. And he's just completely embraced it. And the for him in year 7, after having gotten paid, just watching him approach it, it's one of the coolest things I've seen from a player in an off season since I've been around this league.
How about Kayvon? What have you noticed about him this year?
Very similar. Kayvon's been locked in, and again, it goes back to the off season. Our conversations at the starting point of those conversations in the off season centered around him being consistent, just playing consistently. And then he took it and looked at his body and really dove into the numbers. What were his body weights in certain weeks of the year, in last year and years past, and where he feels comfortable playing. So he transformed his body before he even showed up in April, which propelled him, to be able to work to the levels that he's been working at. And but I felt that last year from Kayvon, his lock-in, his buy-in, his urgency and energy. And, and I think Kayvon had a good year last year. Did he have 10+ sacks? He didn't. He missed time, but he won a lot more one-on-ones than he did, in the previous 2 years of his career and as a rusher, and did some good things in the run game. And so, I think Kayvon took strides a year ago, and this is just a continuation of him trying to elevate his game.
Well, physically, how has he been elevating himself?
He's moving better. He's a little bit lighter than he was a year ago. Kayvon's a naturally strong guy. So, anytime you have guys, in my opinion, who are functionally strong and can set edges and rush with power, if they can gain mobility from being a little bit lighter, I'm always in favor of that. He embraced that. And again, he got into the numbers with our nutritionists and strength staff, and they've identified kind of that sweet spot for him to play at. But he's been like all in and consistent with it, and pursuing greatness, consistency is part of it. That's the challenge. That's the sauce. And that's what has just been so impressive to me about these two veteran players is they're in year 4 and 7 in their careers, and they're just they're attacking it like they never have before. It's awesome as a coach to see it.
On Abdul's run defense,
Yeah.
where do you see him excelling there? What do you need him to work on as far as edge setting and
Just consistent technique in setting edges and knowing where to fight pressure, when you can fall off inside, when you got to stay on the edge, when you can keep knocking it up the field. So there were a couple the other night that can be better, but I thought he was good against Buffalo. He's been physical, taking on pullers and tight end. He took on the pullers the other night and went and physically took out 2 of them. He's a physical player. It's just, he's only played the position 1 year before he got here. So he's still learning and developing, and it takes time. He's young and he's been working at it, but he's been playing hard and he's physical. So, the mastery of the technique will take some time, but he's been willing the entire time he's been here. So it'll improve when it improves,
his recognition of what's coming? It seems like as a rookie, you just haven't seen everything, right? So
I think his recognition is actually really good. I think where he can improve is just once he's engaged in the block, just kind of knowing, where to keep pressing and fighting pressure and when to fall off inside or stay on the edge, that type of thing. But in terms of like diagnosing the plays and his response, I think that's actually in a good spot.
How do you approach? He's only played this position for a year. I guess you're trying to get him ready for gameplay, but also keep perfecting that spot. I guess what you're doing maybe differently with him to do that.
Yeah, I think, just being mindful of what he is good at right now. He hasn't been playing it for, he's only been playing it for a year, which is what it is. But he's still so gifted that he does some things really well. So focus on that, identify that, but push him in the areas that he needs to improve on, and at some point in time when we're game planning and trying to win games and we get into the season, we're going to have to identify exactly what the sweet spot is for him and what he can do where it's not too much, but it's manageable for him to play fast and do what he does, well naturally. Right now in training camp, we're still pushing. So we're intentionally putting a lot on his plate and, pushing him and forcing him to grow and adapt and learn and all those things. But at the same time, it's a lot. It's a lot for anyone, and it's a lot for a rookie. So at some point in time, we'll dial it back. But right now, we're still pushing.
How's he handling that load?
Great. He's a worker, and he wants to be great. Just like everybody in the room, just their willingness to approach and attack greatness is it's off the charts. And as a coach, it's fun to be around.
How do you have Chauncey who came here and you rewind the tape and you go back, and when he came in it was almost like, okay, he's going to have a big role here back in March, and then we all know what happened in the draft. And so for a guy to be technically in our eyes the fourth edge guy, how do you coach him and how do you make sure that he's engaged when he's not necessarily getting the reps with the frontline guys?
I think the same, coach them all the same, demand the standard, teach the same, prepare him, for all the same roles. He can rush inside, so him and Abdul have some dual learning with interior rushing and rushing on the edge. And again, at some point we'll identify exactly how we got to deploy these guys, and we can, maybe right now it seems like Chauncey won't have opportunities, but when we get into the specifics of the season, that's when those opportunities get clearly identified, and those roles will become a little bit more apparent. But he's such a worker. He's such a play style, hard playing, tough guy that He's working every day, and we tell young, guys at the bottom of the roster is just trying to make the team. There's an old adage in football: don't get into the numbers, don't count numbers, don't try to project who's going to make it. Just play football, and everything works out. So we had a great player in Abdul, and perceivably there's going to be limited opportunities or less for other people, but we don't know where that's going to come. So right now everyone's pushing and working, and where that all gets to will remain to be seen. But for now, coaching them all the same, approaching it the same.
I mean, it says a lot for your room, right, as far as the depth goes, where you have your frontline guys, you're bringing Abdul along, and then a guy like Chauncey, who was a starter last year in Dallas, is essentially your fourth guy saying, hey, when am I going to get a turn, that kind of thing. I mean, that says something about you and what you've got to deploy at this point.
No doubt. I mean, it's a luxury as a coach to have your four-person rotation as deep as that is. I mean, that's incredible. So, good players, that's what you want, and those are good problems to have. And, if we can take a couple snaps off Burns and KT and keep them fresh and give Chauncey more and give Abdul more, then that's a benefit as well. If Burns can be even a hair better at a handful of snaps less a game, that's a good thing too. And Chauncey allows us to do that, while Chauncey also is positively impacting the game because he's a good player. So
are Burns and Thibodeau looking forward to being maybe fresher late in games because they have a few fewer snaps, or no, because they want to be on the field?
I think they like the idea of being fresh, but no one wants to relinquish reps or opportunities right now. So I think the reality of the season will have to take place before that, before they fully embrace it. But yeah, fresh. Everyone wants to be fresh at the end of the game, and they understand that.
On Chauncey, why did he play all the way through to the end of the last game? I mean, is that a reflection on you want to see more out of him or no?
No, I mean, Chauncey didn't play in the first game, so we wanted to get him a little extended, play time in that game. So that, and then just numbers wise, once we shut those other guys down, just to kind of give Tamon and Trace a break. And last week we threw Elijah Garcia out there. So, that was the reason why, just trying to get his total body of work up to where it was without playing in week one.
Jeff, I mean, you played this game at a high level, All-American, Notre Dame, all that stuff. When you sat down with Tay in the spring, what are some of the things you sat down with him and said, hey, listen, we have to work on this part of the game?
The part that's for him is just the relaxing and going to play the game. And leaving just focus on having fun. I mean, at the end of the day, we're playing. We joke about it, but this is an opportunity to go play professional football. I mean, a lot of people don't have this opportunity, and sometimes you get so caught up in having to be perfect that you're not relaxed to go just be consistent. And that's what we're trying. The main thing I talk to him about is being consistent about everything that he's doing. Consistent about his technique, consistent about how he approaches the game. And you see it even more so now. He's asking questions that he otherwise would ask at this point in time. But the consistency about everything that he's doing, being a pro on and off the field, and that's what makes the huge difference. And once he gets to that point, he'll reap the benefits, and he'll really enjoy what the process is all about.
Jeff, do you see that consistency from the spring up until the end of August here?
I've definitely seen improvement.
Okay.
I've definitely seen improvement. I was joking with Marquand today in the sense of he's more involved. He's asking questions that he otherwise wouldn't have asked. He's more relaxed. The room has made him more relaxed because of the other guys will challenge him. Not just from a competitive standpoint, but in the room. We're in the classroom. That's another major portion of it. We see on the field the athletic ability and all those things, but the consistency comes about from what you've learned and how you can take that from the classroom to the football field. And he's being challenged in there, and not just from us, from the coaching staff. He's being challenged by the other guys that are in the room, and they're making him be on point. And we were joking around. He was answering some questions that were not directed to him, and that's kudos to him. He's working at getting better in everything that he's doing, and we'll see where it leads to from here.
There's been a lot of focus with him about not finding the ball that's in the air. Is that something that you guys have been trying to teach and emphasize with him?
Well, for the entire unit, not just him specifically, but I mean, we play the game to go attack the football. I mean, we got the best receiver and one of the best receivers on our team, and you're competing against him, and you watch him track the ball, and you see him go attack the ball in the air. You're like, hey, that's the mindset you got to have. And we're doing it as an entire unit. We do something on a daily basis from a ball disruption aspect of it, but we want to make sure the guys are attacking the football in the air. I mean, it's one thing to lead the league in PBUs, but it's another thing to lead the league in interceptions. So the ball is the issue. ball is always the issue, and we've talked about it. We continue to talk about it. When we see it on tape, we make sure we coach those small details up. And hey, look, get your head around. You're in position. Go try to challenge him. Go make the play. And that's the mentality we've had. But the great thing about it, there are other guys in the room that appreciate the fact that we're challenging them, and we make sure we have fun in what we do and how we go about our business.
So as much as you can drill it, I mean, obviously there's a moment of truth when the ball's in the air and there's 60,000 people watching. Like, is that just, it's on the guy obviously too to make that an instinct, or I mean, how do you actually develop that?
Well, so the one thing that we, Marquand and I, we talk about is we as humans do what we do in our most relaxed state is what we're going to do at the crunch time. So when we're going through walkthroughs and the ball is in the air, turn and track the ball, turn and look for the ball. Even if it's walkthrough, whatever it may be, you want to try to attack the ball, because that's what you're going to do when the pressure comes, you're going to fall to the level you're training. So if we're training those small details and walkthrough and all the different drills that we do, you don't have to have high impact all the time, but we're doing something as they walk into the room right now, those small details that we're trying to work on, because again, if you're consistently do it, at some point in time, your body's going to react to it and do what you know naturally to do. And so we try to work on it every opportunity we get.
Wait, what do you say when they walk into the room?
Well, we're punching bags and we're block destruction. We're doing small things like that. So those are things that we're trying to consistently make sure we have those guys do, because, I mean, small details are the most important part of the game. And if you're doing those small details, again, they're walking in with their water bottles and backpacks and they're putting these things down and doing what they have to do. Guess what? They're relaxed doing it. But if you do it enough times, just do it over, what is it, 21 days? Is that what creates a habit? So we still got some time. But I know the first game is coming around pretty soon, but we've tried to work those things on a consistent level as a unit, and I think we're progressing. We'll see how much they've progressed once the game starts.
I'd say that's been the thing we've talked about a lot with him, is not turning his head to find the ball. You're nodding. Like, is that something you've been trying to ingrain in him? And how challenging is it to get him to do that more?
That's a good one. And I say this from this standpoint for him. We all have our things that we need to work on. We call those ball combat moments. And in those moments, how do I remain poised at the catch point in order to find and finish through the hands or get an interception? So continuously, it's just like a free throw. I have to do it as many times that I make it look like Steph Curry shooting a three-point. And I always talk to them about that. How many times can I do the same action that I make it effortless? So that's what we continue to work on. So, and again, it's been amazing to actually see him start a little bit. That's been the cool part. And the other side of that is that's his weakness that he's helping everybody else get better. So that's where we kind of took that. And it's been amazing to watch.
Appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you.
Between him and Cordell, what is like some of the things that one guy is good at and one guy is not, or the strengths that both have or the weaknesses that both have?
I can tell you this, man. Two outstanding men, first of all, from the day I walked in. That's the first part I can tell you. The second part is they're willing to do whatever to help the team. And whether that be in our room, if they're not able to practice or play in a game, what could they do to help us get better? Wasn't always like that. And that was the good part about those guys and that part of them taking that ownership. So it's been really cool to follow. I think they're both tremendous athletes, man. It's a unique problem to have. And when I say problem, is how can we get our room stronger? We're only as strong as the 53rd guy. And we look at it like that in our room. You've seen it all camp. We've been rotating everybody, kind of, sort of, just to get ourselves through, but also what can I do to help my brother so my brother can do his job. So that's really been the amazing part about watching this, man. And those guys been good at it. Two tremendous men that understand the maturation of where we're headed.
That's the one spot that's kind of flipped back and forth, though, really, with the first team, depending on it. What do you need to see from one of them in order to earn that job?
I wouldn't say see anything, but being consistently consistent is the standard that we're looking for, period. In our room, and that's every player. That's not just those two guys. Being consistent on our standard. What is our standard? Our standard is the standard of excellence. You upheld to that every single day that we walk out on the field. So if you ask me what we're looking for, the consistency of being able to be consistent to our standard. What is that? That looks up a million different ways of understanding that I'm there to help my brother do his job. Can be counted on down in and down out? those small things. It's not the, I always say the spectacular comes in the ordinary. And that's really true. The spectacular comes in the ordinary. I ordinarily look at my key, do my job. The first thing is stay on top, turn, look, catch the ball in ball combat moments at the catch point, and defend the plays that are supposed to come to me. So I would say that being consistent with the standard.
With Deontay and, being accountable to each other and that, being able to depend on each other, like you just said. He spoke earlier this summer about finishing plays as one thing he's kind of had to improve on from last year and almost just as an effort. What have you seen from that regard?
It's been really well, man. In the small things that he's shown in the maturation process to get there. And that's what I've been really proud of. And not, like I said, not just him, but the infatuation of watching Holland do it, watching Debo do it. When you see that, that's infectious. And that's any one of us. When you see it, it's infectious. And I think that has transcended within our room with all the guys. If the guy who is supposed to be the leader is doing it every snap, why can't I? And that's been an amazing part about it.